Yo, what's good, YouTube? It's Dorsey Uncle back here with another video. And I guess I'm going to start talking about different kinds of sports and different athletes on the channel pertaining to different sports because I've never talked about boxing on my channel, but I do love the sport of boxing, professional prize fighting, things of that nature. But tonight was a historical event. Did it live up to the hype? No, but we're going to get into why that was. But Terence Crawford and Errol Spence Jr. faced off for the undisputed welterweight championship at 147, and it was a one-sided affair. It really was. But what I take away from this fight, that Terence Bud Crawford, he's the real deal. There is no denying that. And after this rematch, I would love to see a fight between him and Canelo Alvarez. I think that he would win that fight, and I will put my money on him. But this fight here, man, it just felt so one-sided after round one, and the better man, he won. He did. There's no doubt about that. Both men are first ballot Hall of Famers. Shout out to him. My favorite fighter is Errol Spence Jr. and Shakur Stevenson, but it was sad to see Errol Spence go out that way, but that's the reason why you got to keep things in their proper perspective and not have your emotions tied up into these boxers, these athletes, or anyone, like anyone outside of God, right? But Errol Spence, different fighters are saying he looks dehydrated. We don't know what Errol Spence was going through. We don't know if it was the car crash, if it was the injury to his eye. Like, the guy didn't have a tune-up fight or nothing. He just hopped in there after the Ugas fight, which was a good minute ago. And, hey, he put it all on the line against Terence Bud Crawford, and he lost. You know, somebody had to lose, regardless if it went the other way. Like, I would have still been giving props to Terence Crawford because somebody had to lose. Nobody was going to remain undefeated in this fight. And it's unfortunate that it went the way that it did because Errol Spence, it didn't seem like he brought his A game. It didn't seem like he was even in the same league as a Terence Crawford. And I believe that they are on the same level. Not really, but I'm saying from the standpoint of they're the cream of the crop. And Errol Spence, I don't know where he was at tonight, but that was not the Errol Spence that I know him to be. But there will be a rematch at 154 probably, or 147. It depends on Terence Crawford. But Errol Spence said that he will perform better. He will do better. And I believe him. I just don't think that he has what it takes to beat Terence Crawford. And that's a lot of ground to make up for. Like, it was a completely one-sided affair. It was not like, oh, he just got caught with something and then the stoppage happened. Like, no, he got knocked down 3 times and never knocked down Bud once. Bud didn't even look like he got hurt in the fight. Yeah, he caught him with a little bit, but it wasn't, at no point in the fight did you ever think that Terence Crawford was in trouble. That's what it was like. Like, me, after the second round, I'm over here like, just, what the fuck is going on? I'm like, no, this is not what I expected it to be. Like, Errol Spence had never been dropped in his career, and he got dropped 3 times by Crawford. And the ref had to stop the fight because Errol Spence, he was ready to go out there and die. What it seemed like he was ready, and that's what comes with boxing. Professional prize fighting. These guys, they want to go out on their shield. They're willing to die in that ring. But another thing that comes with professional prize fighting and boxing, MMA, and things of that nature is the trolls and the bullshit that comes after you take a loss. Look what happened to Deontay Wilder. What happened to Errol Spence tonight. Fulton. And the list goes on and on and on. People are ready to see you fail. It's not so much that they even care about the sport or the event or the historical significance of the event. They just want to see somebody lose so they control them. But at the end of the day, none of these people got the heart to step foot into that ring. They just don't. They never had that heart. They never will. And these are the toughest athletes on the face of the earth. And I can't do nothing but tip my hat to Terence Crawford and to Errol Spence, because Errol Spence showed a lot of heart. A lot of heart. A lot. But it wasn't enough to get him to win. Outside of round one, he didn't win a single round. And then the stoppage happened. Terence Crawford hit him with a bunch of counters. And Errol Spence was very irresponsible defensively. Like, I just don't know who he was training to fight. He might fire his trainer. And I wouldn't be surprised if he did it, because it did not look like he was prepared. Many fighters were saying, oh, he looks dehydrated. He's this, he's that. We don't know what's wrong with Errol Spence. We don't know if the car crash affected him that much, if the eye injury. We don't know. But we do know is that he took a loss tonight in disappointing fashion. That's exactly what we know. Once again, him and Shakur Stevenson, my two favorite fighters. So this is not coming from the standpoint of somebody who's hating on Errol Spence. I'm just coming from the perspective of a person who loves the sport of boxing and what I saw happen in the ring. Terence Crawford was by far the better fighter. We don't know what Errol will look like at 154, so it's best not to, I guess, expound upon that. We don't know if the next fight, the rematch, is going to be at 154. It might stay at 147. It depends on Terence Crawford. But these guys, first ballot Hall of Famers, man. Both are first ballot Hall of Famers, so you guys can make your jokes about Errol Spence. Y'all can clown him. And this is going to be the biggest adversity that he's gone through in his life outside of the car crash. Who's really on your side, Errol? Who really has your back? Who truly loves you, man? Like, we all can learn from this situation. And he was so humble in his humility in his loss, because he said he was the better man, better fighter. He didn't give any excuses, and a class act. So, people can clown him all they want. There ain't no excuses. He ain't give no excuses. But Crawford, he gave his respect to Errol Spence. They like each other, man. Like, they'll be cool after this entire situation. I don't think the rematch is going to sell as good as this first fight, because it was just so dominant. Like, it was so dominant. Like, Crawford was out for blood, and Spence, he looked like he wanted to be there, but I just don't think he realized who he was fighting. I don't think they prepared him well enough to even fight Terence Crawford. It didn't look like he had no business even being in the ring. So it's no disrespect to Errol Spence. It's just, man, just bounce back. Hopefully you have a better showing, because that's all that we can ask of Errol Spence at this point. Do I think that he can beat Terence Bud Crawford? I think that there is a chance, but it's a slim chance at this point. Like, Terence Crawford is going to have to be sleeping at this point for Errol Spence to win. And once again, that's no disrespect to Errol Spence, because I just think that he's the better fighter at this point. I picked Errol Spence, and, he didn't get the job done. But that happens. But it takes a lot of courage. It takes a different type of man to step foot into that ring. So all these cowards, all these trolls, they can talk shit about Errol Spence, but at the end of the day, these guys get to go home to their families. They're rich. If they retire today, they're Hall of Famers. And it's not the end of the world for Errol Spence. It's just not. It's not the end of the world. And I hope he doesn't believe that. I don't think that he believes that. Even if Terence Crawford moved up and fought Canelo Alvarez and he lost to Canelo, it's not the end of the world for him. These guys are legendary. It's not the end of the world. So you guys can keep talking shit about him. And if Terence Crawford loses, y'all gonna talk shit about him. The one fighter that people resent for not losing is Floyd Mayweather. Everybody else they get to throw their jokes at and talk trash about, but Floyd Mayweather, he got out. Undefeated, man. And people resent him for that, because they didn't get a chance to throw the jokes at him. They didn't get a chance to troll him. All these things. And that's the reason why they hate Floyd Mayweather. But at the end of the day, these guys, they put it all on the line. Terence Crawford, he stood tall. Errol Spence, he can learn a lot from this situation, and hopefully he can bounce back. You know, even if he loses again, there's no telling what will happen if he loses against Terence Crawford again. I don't know. I do not know where his career would head, but there's no shame in losing to a Terence Crawford. But it's just how you lose. Come back, you know, have a better performance, and put on a better show. That's the only thing we can ask from Errol Spence at this point. Just put on a better show. We don't know what his body's like. We don't know why he performed that way. All we know is that he can do better. And I'm willing to bet that he does better. I hope he does better. And the brother, he has a lot to learn. Terence Crawford dominated. And hopefully, once we get that Canelo Crawford fight, hey, it'll be fireworks. But that's all I got to say about this. Shout out to Errol Spence. Shout out to Terence Bud Crawford. And both legendary fighters, both first ballot Hall of Famers, and both get to go home to their families. Like, because I promise, Errol Spence, he was ready to die in that ring. And he has heart, a lot of heart. So does Terence Crawford. But the better man won. And we'll see what happens in the rematch, what weight they'll be fighting at. And if Errol Spence is going to be coming to the table with something different than what he came tonight with. And that's all I got to say. Peace.